Surprisingly, I'm doing living style guides. So that's some of our projects I did this year, working for big companies or another conference like Eurocamp and making style guides, big documents, and everything in between to have good, maintainable front ends. And what should it look like in 2015? That's what I thought. But the other thing I'm doing living style guide, the nice thing is I can make stickers. That's the only thing I'm doing open source development. And stickers need to be on laptops, and I spent a lot of money to just find out how to get it on the best speaker's laptop. So I think pink is cool color. Okay, let's go on with pink. Where are we now? If you look ahead into the next year, how should the living style guides look? Yeah, we need to look back. Yeah, we found out something works not very well, and you may have seen this one. It's the good old styleguide.pdf, if you're lucky. Some ages ago, it was a printed version, and sometimes it looks like that. We have a lot of style guides, and we send them over mail. That's not really good. That's the offline style guides. So we have a confusion about the latest version. We have the .v1 latest in the email. Sometimes in the wiki, if you ever heard of the wiki, everybody hates it. So it's super hard to distribute. And it's very, very hard to change, because who can edit a PDF? Almost nobody. And who is it created with? Maybe it's made with Word, maybe not. But InDesign or other programs we don't have. But still, it's perfect for corporate design. What's the logo? What's the color? How should your business card look like? Who has a business card? I just dropped mine. But still, those things don't change that often. While websites, they change every day. I don't know how many tests are run by Facebook. I think a lot. So they have to be reflected somewhere. So we want to create a living style guide. There are several terms for it. Front-end style guide is maybe one of the oldest. There's a component library and what else? So basically it's quite the same, different names for it. The good thing about living style guides, they're made with HTML and CSS. So the things we work on every day, at least for me, I'm only working with CSS and HTML, and the Ruby is just, it's nice to have in open source projects, but besides that, other people are doing it. So, and we use the production CSS. So it's not a static document, which is somewhere and on a domain name, whatever. It's just like a document living in the current application and using the production CSS. So if something is wrong in the application, mostly it's wrong in the style guide too. That's great for checking. And we use version control. That's way better than adding -v1 at the end of the file and latest at the end of the next file. At least we're developers, and that's a good thing about the living style guides. They're not made from designers only. It's a combination of designers and developers. So best thing of both worlds. And I think at least at version control, developers are usually slightly better than designers. Yeah, we separate the design and the code by having a separate document. It's already separated. And we try to have the living style guides automated as much as possible. There are a lot of generators out there. Yeah, I'm guilty in writing another one. But I've seen also some basic HTML documents. The first one I wrote, I don't know when it was, like some years ago, and I didn't even know it was a style guide. I just was looking for a solution how to separate that I don't have to control the data because the other developers weren't ready. So I just made some examples, put them into one HTML file, and in the end I had a style guide. I was like, cool, let's do it all the time, like that. Okay. And laugh. Backend developers love it. It's the first time I felt laugh being in a project when I used the living style guide, because they said, oh, finally something is tidy. It's like the concept we share on backend, and we don't have to deal with all the ugly stuff. there are so many backend developers out there that really hate CSS. I can't understand because I love CSS from some point, but from another point, I know there's so many messy CSS out there, and sometimes, okay, there are the ugly sides of CSS. I don't know them because I try to avoid them, and after some time you get a bit blind because you don't notice anymore how bad it could be if you're just using it. But if you're 99% doing the back end, you maybe only see the bad parts of CSS, and that will do exist. And the other thing is, for doing style-driven development, sometimes it works, but it heavily depends on the project setup. I always feel like starting with the style guide and design first, and don't hire any backend developer until you know what you actually want to do. So how everything looks like, and so the base components of the website should be ready. Otherwise, the developers, it's hard to communicate to them. You see, here's a form, here it looks like, and we want to have that data. Everybody could see it right now. You could also make a big mock-up, but the style guide gives a feeling of how the backend should look like to provide that format. So if you wait for some weeks to start with backend developers, it's more easy to communicate everything, and they can start right away when they build up a viewer, controller, whatever, and have it look like the way it should look like. So they feel good because usually they think, oh, there's some data, should I have an ordered list, an unordered list, what to do, or I hate HTML, there's a reset and everything will. And now they're lovely. Cool. So, is it great? Really? Yeah, it's great out of nothing, but the separation of design and content, I think CSS was wrong at some point, really long time ago. Now we can fix that. So, I don't know when it was. I think there were still more than one night in the year when we tried to have that. We have this HTML on one side and CSS on the other side. I think that turned into XML at some point, where it makes more sense, but HTML and CSS trying to separate it looked cool at some point, but I think it totally failed. So where are we now? It's actually almost the same, but we have the third thing. We have data, and that's what we actually want to separate from the rest. So HTML can't live without CSS, my personal opinion. And CSS can't live without HTML. Okay, let's see SVG right now, but SVG and HTML is something pretty close, so it could be put in one pot. So we can start with CSS, and yeah, we can't do anything without it. So do we want to have HTML in the style guide? I want to have it because this is one of mine. I really love syntax highlighting. At some point, some night, some years ago, I wrote a syntax highlighter myself, which was a bit different. It was so much fun. But it's actually, is it useful? So here, it might be useful if you want to use this. So this is Hamel example. You have to use those classes, and you actually see what to use. But it's still complicated. You have to look at it a lot. You really have to understand what's there. You might have to learn Hamel, but at least for that project, that might be the easiest part. But yeah, I try to make it better by highlighting the elements which are really important. But does it feel good? I don't know. Half of the style guide is just HTML code, and if it's more complex examples, it looks like that. So, bad or not? First reason, how to take care of the changes. I was thinking about it a lot. So, after a while, everything gets redesigned. Look at Facebook or Twitter, or especially Twitter. Basically, it's still the same like when it started 2005 or something. It's a list of items. So maybe attached images came, or basically a tweet is a tweet, but it changed over and over. It just recently changed back the font. And if the order of something changes, backend developer doesn't really care about, but have to care, because we separated content and design in like separating CSS and HTML. First solution would be having a change log. I tried to think about how this could look like. We would have a lot of things here in nobody needs to care of, like the first, or there's one new HTML structure, doesn't say anything, so how should we know what actually changed? About 1 year ago, I was raised and talked with a lot of people on how to make style guide generators better, and the biggest topic was like having this change in. And we were all like amazed, having cool stuff, which may look like that. That's what I had in mind. You see an example in here, having different versions, so it changed, and every version changed in here. So what it or every other version control management does what it did, you have here a switch, and you could switch to an older version where maybe the line height is different, or the icons are turned to the right, or whatever, I don't know. But still, it's complicated. And you have a diff in here, so backend developer would have needed to check all this time, and they need to be informed, oh, something changed over there, and I think it might mess up. And writing this change log properly, I really hate writing change logs. You have to do it somehow. There are some generators which automatically do it when they see new commits. But still, for open source projects, where change log is really, really important, I forget it and add it when I release a new version. I think it should be in there way before, because sometimes you may just use the GitHub source. Okay. And the second thing is edge cases. So what's an edge case? I didn't find the original tweet, but this went viral on Twitter. We had this very nice photo of a new watch made by Apple, and the tweet about it was like having all your perfectly photographed friends with 4-letter names on one screen. Who has seen this tweet? Cool. I spent 1 hour today looking up this tweet, but I couldn't find it with any search engine. So, okay, bit more in words, what's an edge case? Having the same HTML with different amount of text. Having friends with longer names, actually. Having the same HTML without image, like the user has no profile image, would also appear for the Apple Watch. And having the same HTML with a too small image, what would we do? Will we fill up the text here? Should we just float around the text? We need to take care of all those edge cases. But maybe if you just want to look at a style guide from a perspective, what do I need to work on with my data right now? We don't care about the edge cases, but as a front-end developer who wants to provide a very good and flexible interface, that's super important. So, what have all the edge cases have in common? To go back to that slide, having the same HTML. So the only thing is like between the opening and between the closing and the opening brackets, there's maybe different text or there's maybe another image, but basically it's the same HTML with the classes we need to apply, and you have to write them over and over. And that's not very dry. I'm not sure if this is used in other development languages, but if you're doing Rails, try at the beginning was the main concept of everything. Keeping it dry. Don't repeat yourself. Having everything written once. So if you have to write a test for every edge case and then the HTML change, you have to get to all those examples and have to rewrite them to match it. I'm lazy. I think a good developer should be lazy to find a better solution. So something I want to do is separating and having one template in there,
which is now written with something like mustache, and just defining for each test, we have this template over there, and we will want to test it with those JSON data. And for the next one, here is our edge case. We also want Apuna, Hasapitam, whatever. I'm not good in that. But he should show up very nicely. So either we will have 3 ellipses at the end, or something cool, but we need to test it. So I think it would look like that maybe. Okay, it has a 3-digit name, but yeah. This should appear at least in the style guide I want to look at. And when I commit it and push it, it should not look like that. I need to find a solution. Actually, I've got no idea what Apple does in that case, but I haven't seen their style guide, if they have one. So, the nice thing is, if we extract the template, the backend developer has to copy the ID, not a bunch of HTML. And now it's getting interesting, because it makes life so much more easy. It's not a week. I can personally save a lot of time by not editing any appearance in any test. It's the same for other developers. And the other developers, they're not that familiar with the kind of HTML and CSS classes I've written. I just know them perfectly, but others don't care. So having that to just copy the ID and not a bunch of HTML, which is always messed up, yeah, what we just defined, we call an API. So from having really a lot of CSS files, getting them structured into a style guide, and having them tested with edge cases, we're going more and more to normal development of web applications. And an API is the best thing in development one can have. So an API is easy to test, a front end not. For years, I loved testing, except for front end. And I was working mostly on front ends. That's somehow stupid. So I never tested any front end, besides clicking around a bit, and I felt so bad. But having it going down to such a simple thing like an API makes it easy to test. And yeah, an API has one specific call per action. You maybe want to get all information of the user on Facebook with the ID 12345 or 4711, as we call it in Cologne. You get out to define data. It might change in the name, but you exactly know when you call this, you will get back that. And if you exactly know that, you can test it. So a good API, of course, has written tests for every single call and for different calls and what to expect when the data differs and so on. So a good API should be stable. And style guide APIs, it's the same. We just need to have the tests. And tests are quite easy if you automate them, and we don't have to write them because we've already written them. The edge cases are actually our tests. So I couldn't think of anything else to break like that. So we can just take a screenshot. We go through every example and take a screenshot. And if the screenshot looks good, maybe we did a good job. So before we commit anything, we automatically take a screenshot of every example, include all the edge cases in there, and compare that before and after. And this is the most important question in CSS. Did I break anything? I broke a lot of things, sadly. The better I get, the less I break, but I never came with any project where I didn't break anything. So having classes and everything saved me a lot of breaking, but still, yeah. But if you just run a test over everything, you know if you break anything. So each example should have something like the HTML could be user.mustache. A CSS file, I would use SCSS or slash for that. You have a normal example, this is what you want to show in your style guide traditionally, and you have a lot of edge cases just put in there, and that's the most interesting question. What are you doing with the comparison? If you commit something, you might have a lot of commits, and so you can't just go one back. I would suggest is, if you wrote an example, then have an initial commit of screenshots, how it should look like. And if it changes, you have a commit to those screenshots and actually state in the commit message why they changed. Then it's okay. So the next one who runs the test can run them, I guess, the screenshots, they're already in your repository. So you know other people like it, to have it like that. Difficult thing is like, okay, will the screenshot be the same on every system? Unfortunately, I don't really know because I've never tried running those on different machines. I know I have a lot of developers, they're using Linux or Windows. That's something you have to find out. Does it work with your engine, testing engine? But all in all, it should be the same. And I think using PNG is better than JPEG for that. So to go back, where are we and what's a style guide good for? I answered a lot of questions to that, but if you go into one direction, you should not lose what you want to actually do. So we have a lot of targets groups for a style guide. I put them up here. I would see me in the upper left corner. There are some backend developers. I would say backend developers could also be JavaScript developers who write the application, but not the CSS and the HTML. We've got quality assurance. We've got designers. We've got also external designers. That is like when you have a campaign with somebody else, they want to just adjust it to your design. They need to have some information about doing that. And there's also HR. I think having a good style guide is very good for getting new developers on your project. You want to show to the public, hey, we are doing it right. We make something look good. Not only the platform looks good, it's maybe one of the few things you can show to the outside world of your development in your company. The other thing is like releasing open source software or writing blog posts. But for a living style guide, you don't have to do much, just have a public URL. And nothing else you need to do, share this URL, and you can prove what you're doing. So, what are the important parts of this? I think the upper three are super important. That's what I'm working on every day. We have the designers down there, they partially use it. We have some stuff like the colors in there, which is, it looks pretty nice, but I actually don't use it that much. The external designers, really much depends on your company, but having a zip with a logo in it sometimes helps a lot. You can integrate it in your style guide, but it's not the main thing for me. HR, a bit, it's just, it comes out by the way. I would, oops. What's that, or a button? So, I would change it a bit like that. So we have two different designers. The one that actually work with the team, they should be included in here. And we have maybe designers in the company, they do other stuff. They work on advertisement, they work on your corporate design, they do an invitation for whatever, but the designers for the actual product we're working on, which is obviously a web application or something like that, they are included in the front-end team, which does HTML and CSS. Sometimes it's the same person. And how do we make them happy? It's simple. We have everything, we just need to know what to do when. So we just show the code and the data for who needs it. We have the front-end developers, we need to have the HTML to do something, we need to have maybe defined variables if you use Sass, less, or styles. We have Mix-ins define, extend templates, and other things. Basically, how do we develop what we share in common? But if somebody wants to just use our front end, that's not interesting. It's only interesting if you develop new features into the front end. We have the backend developers. They just need to know which template should I choose and which data can put in and in which format. Should I format the numbers? Should I have a comma in the numbers for the German version, or does the template actually take care of it? Those questions should answer your style guide. And then we have the quality assurance. We need to know maybe the quality assurance for a style guide could actually only be a computer running everything, but we also have the other quality assurance that tests our website. If we're really doing good, I think the style guide can be tested only with computers. And we need to, of course, check our own website, and for that, humans is a good thing. We have the designers, so we can show all the fonts and the colors and everything used on the website in there. We can also integrate our logo, download it as SVG, or specify some CMYK values. That's just a document you can add. It helps. So, and for HR, yeah, just put it out, show you're doing good stuff. So, this shouldn't be that, so. The title, back to the title. The vision for style guides in 2015, it's actually simple. It's less about style or about guiding, so I don't know if the word is still okay. Component libraries might be a bit better, or anything else, but still I'm coming out from a design community. I love the word living style guides. Living sounds like, hey, going back to the future and real life, and so I will keep that. But the vision is, I think that isn't that one. So, it's simply an API, nothing else. Just come from a developer's perspective, develop an API, do everything in API-driven development, what's defined there, and apply it to a front end. And that's quite good. It's independent, it's easy to use, it's maintainable, it's testable. That's what we want to have. We don't ever want the user to see something crashing on the website, something which doesn't look good anymore, or it's not usable at all. It just should be good. And when we add new features, everything else should stay as it was. And we still want to have it that beautiful that it spreads the world. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nico. That was lovely. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's sit down for a couple of questions. I don't know where you want to sit. Oh, that's cool. You talked about style guides. That is something that is really important to me because I personally talked about that topic a while ago on conferences. My question is, how do you see style guides in companies today? Are they used, like, for example, in agencies or in smaller businesses? Is this something that really happens?
Yes, I know agencies like Even Speakerman is super up to style guides, and there are some more. I sometimes do more or less agency work, and it helps me a lot. Like last year when I've been to Cologne, it was because I was working for Toyota and I was working for ProSieben Sat.1, and both were using PHP a lot. And I did some PHP a long time ago, but I wouldn't say I'm a PHP developer. I don't want to set up all this stuff. I never saw any line of code over there. I just made a style guide project myself. I used middleman, everything in Ruby, like where I feel comfortable, and built everything and compiled it at the end. So I have an HTML file, a CSS file, they're already compressed like for production, and maybe a folder full of images. I could just move them over. There could be better ways, but in the end we have that API, a simple interface, and the one group makes the one thing and the other group makes the other thing.
So as you
Yeah.
said, no need for backend developers.
Yes.
Concerning that, when you look at developers as front-end developers and designers, and you are both, I think, do you think there needs to be maybe a change in how we interact with each other? Maybe we don't speak enough about what we really do and what we care about?
I think that's always the case for everything. Sometimes we don't speak enough. On the other side, there are too many meetings. You should be.
Yeah, great.
Try to have a simple product helps. If you want to build your the Microsoft strategy of the 90s, it's bad. As the iTunes strategy of the 2000s, just have something like make an address book, make a calendar, and when it's so easy to understand, there shouldn't be any questions. So keep it simple every time. Don't repeat yourself, and reduce the amount of meetings because they're not needed anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. Just a quick question by someone called ASCII Disco on Twitter. He asks, where did you get those shoes? Great.
I'm going to tell you the same story I told the guy who asked me that in the train when I was coming here. Actually, they're from Korea. He told me he's seen something like that from Prada maybe some years ago. I don't know if they're inspired, let's say. There's no brand on it. I just found them and I thought they look beautiful, and I can tell you it's a lot of time to get them on and off. But when they're on, they look good.
Maybe this guy can come talk to him later about that. Thanks so much, Nico Hagenburger.
Thank you for doing that.